Hello, Maria. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So I understand that I actually have to read this so I don't mess it up. Intellectual property attorney. So
I am that.
first, can you just explain what it is, what it involves, and then we just can go from there.
Sure. So first of all, I am a lawyer. I'm an attorney, so period on that. Then I focused on intellectual property field, which for me, it's my life. It's everything that I'm good at. So intellectual property is whatever comes out of your mind, of your intellect. So everything, whenever you say, I have an idea, that's your intellectual property. But what's the story? We cannot protect an idea. What is an idea? It's nothing. It's something we have in our head. And unless we do something to put it into like words, a photo, a book, a trademark, a patent, or something, we cannot protect that. So intellectual property is the wide field, and it's divided into intellectual property per se and industrial property. Mm-hmm. Intellectual property is, for example, copyrights. So like I've told you, like music, lyrics, books, blueprints, poems, everything you create out of your intellect. And then we have industrial property, which are like trademarks, patents, designs. Mm-hmm. So it's two different fields into one general one.
Okay. And so let's say I come up with an idea. How can I know at what point is it valid to be protected, or it has to be protected, or what is the process? How do I know even where to start, or how to do it?
So if you have an idea for a business, that's easier because you say, I don't know, I want to be a coach. So I have this idea that, I don't know, I want to help people with whatever, mm-hmm. trauma, business, coaching in any area. So that's easy because, okay, so you just decide you will have a business, you file for whatever type of business you want to have, and you're good to go. You decide on a trademark name, we protect that. Probably you will create a program for your clients. So that program should be copyrighted, and you're pretty much good to go. You should consider some contracts and like go in there, but that's it. But what happens when you create a device that may solve people's lives somehow? So that could be a patent. But in order for us, the attorneys, to know that, first of all, you should contact an attorney to see if the thing you've come up with is actually something we can patent, because sometimes this is something I see every day, like people think they have created something and in their minds, but when we go deep, probably China has it. So it's not really a patent, but it could be a different type of device if we add some features. So the best way to proceed is actually having a search done, which is something we do worldwide, to see if your creation is something brand new, because the main point for a patent is novelty. So novelty, meaning nobody has to know what we are talking about, because if someone says, oh yeah, I bought it last week, we no longer have a patent.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing that I as I was learning about this, I understood it also has to be useful. So it has to be new, and it also has to be useful.
It has to serve a purpose. Yes, it has to be something that, I don't know, we use for a day, not a daily, like on a daily basis, but electricity was a patent back in the time. Mm-hmm. But what happened? Like back in the time, it was a patent because we created that, and in time, it became public domain. So whenever we have a patent, the owner of the patent will have exclusive rights for pretty much 20 years. It can vary from country to country, but in most of them, it's 20 years. So for those 20 years, this person gets the chance to be the only one that has it. And if you want to license that, or if you want to sell that, if you're interested somehow, you only have one person in the world you have to get in touch with, and this person may give you the license. So patents or designs are not something cheap. They are honestly an investment because of the whole process, all the blueprints and designs we have to file at the patent office. But it's really rewarding for the owner in time, because if you are the only one person in the world who has that, everyone needs to reach to you and get a license, and you can license people and get different agreements, and you also get the economic benefit for that. You get money because someone wants to sell your stuff. I don't know, if you're in the States, they want it in Canada, in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, South Africa, whatever, and you get the benefits.
Yeah, okay. And how do you know that even when you patent things, what are the, I was listening that there's, with certain innovations, you literally have engineers going through your application where they look at it so much in detail, that how, and that's interesting thing that I think is that one person can literally decide whether this is unique or not. They might not see it as unique, but somebody next to them might see it as there is something unique. So do you know what is it that they are looking for, or what is it that maybe, is there like a universal way how they see or decide whether something is unique or not, where they kind of get rid of that human effect, where for one person who is making that decision, it might seem unique, for somebody else it couldn't?
No, so here's the story. It might not be unique for me. I may say, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
But if there's not something like this in the world, we can definitely go for that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that I, or like the attorney, needs to think it is something useful. Maybe you don't see the beauty in the stuff that you should be protecting, but it doesn't mean that it's not something we can actually patent. Back then, and going back to electricity, people considered him to be like insane. What is he doing? So when you come to a point in which people think you're crazy, you're going somewhere. Probably you're going somewhere. So it doesn't, and if you don't find an attorney that is interested enough in actually going for you, like being there for you and supporting your process, try a new one. You should be with if 5 different people say it's not something we can do, okay, and we have done a search, the key will be the search, not the person's opinion only.
Okay.
So sometimes it's not something we could patent because it's already there. It's already something we've seen. But if we add some more features, it could be patented. Or it could become a design or a utility model. So sometimes it's not a patent, but it could be something else. So that is where the attorney's opinion comes into place. Like, okay, so this cannot be a patent because of this, and that, but we can tweak a few things and try to make it a utility model or a design somehow. And yes, we do work with engineers and chemist people, it's a wonderful, amazing world. And I don't pretend to be an engineer or a chemist or anything like that. And that's why I do the intellectual protection in the legal area, but we do work and we network with people who are way more qualified than ourselves.
So what are the people that are actually involved in this process where you, even before this, can you maybe give an example of, let's say, where you submitted a patent and then there was something that you needed to change and then it was accepted, so that in a way it can give an understanding of what are the things that can actually be changed or are allowed to change? Because, and is there a limit of how many times you can apply and then change something, apply and change something?
Yes and no. For privacy purposes, I cannot disclose any of the client's information, even when they are actually out there. But in my experience, it varies in the country we are doing it. So some countries may have more rules and some others be more flexible. So whenever a trademark or a patent or a design goes into the filing process, we have to show, not for the trademarks, but for patents, utility models, and devices, we need to show exactly the whole thing, like the device and how many centimeters it will have, or inches, depending on how you think, and exactly what we are heading towards. And it goes through an examination process at the office. So the examiner behind that may say something is odd, and we might get either official actions or a phone call. It will depend on where we are filing that. So sometimes we solve things over the phone, and sometimes we don't. So that will truly depend on, I don't want to say luck, but it's pretty much it. It's like fate. I cannot guarantee a result because I don't know the person who will be seeing what I filed and saying something is weird, I don't like this. But that's why it's important to go with an attorney, because we know the terms, we may guide you. We, like, when it comes to trademarks, we will tell you, I don't know, clothing, it's not the same as having a service. So something is weird. Or with the patent, like, if you don't pay for the fees, like even something that's stupid could cause you a problem. So it definitely varies from country to country. We do this worldwide, helping the clients, but our experience is completely different depending on the country we are in.
Okay. And getting back to that theme, so what kind of people do you surround yourself with, or you go to? Of course, depending on the patent or industry or anything like that, but is there some kind of general like rule or the main people that you have in your circle apart from engineers? I didn't even think about chemists and things like that. There's that by itself. Now I'm like, okay, there must be more.
Yep. Yeah, engineers and chemists, like different types of engineer and chemists as well. Yeah, I think that's it for the patents, but we need to have someone very specific, because I will not pretend to be like understanding like what I'm seeing, or I don't know how to create that. Someone needs to explain that to me, because I am a lawyer. I know the legal stuff.
Yeah. So how do you communicate to them? Because that is, you are both talking in a way two different languages. So how do you communicate to each other?
So I do have people around me that I trust. They are part of my team. So sometimes if for some reason I am like, okay, I don't pretend to understand. If they say it's good enough for them, and these are people that I trust, it's good enough for me. Like when you hire an attorney, you may not understand what the attorney is saying, but you trust this person. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So we meet it like either in person or online, depending on where we are filing, and that's how we proceed. So since we do this worldwide, I don't pretend to know exactly all the laws in the world. And full disclaimer, there is no such a thing as international attorneys handling matters all over the world, just one person. So I do this, but when we go to, I don't know, South Africa, I do have in my network someone that I trust there, and we go with them. So I know intellectual property, I know trademarks, I know patents, but there could be a teeny tiny thing in South Africa that may not be required in the States. And I need to be in alignment with that, so the client gets the patent in this scenario. So I have people within my network that I trust for these jobs.
Yeah,
it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's I've been doing this for 12 years now. 12, 13 years. So that's how long we've met. We've known each other.
Yeah. And it's it's in a way even necessary to have those people so that you can actually provide better service to your clients, because as you said, you can't know everything. So it's great to have people that you can trust in different countries wherever you need to do the job.
Absolutely.
But I also want to learn more about how did you get into this? Because I know that even from our first conversation, I know that you're so passionate about this and you love what you're doing and you really care about the service that you give to your clients. But how did you get into this? How did it start?
Well, I went to law school. I graduated from law school. I got a job and I was bored.
But so how did you even decide on the law?
I don't have a real answer for that. I was like 10, 11, 12 years. And I think it probably was because of Hollywood movies. And I like the attorneys, and like my parents are not lawyers. My grandparents weren't lawyers. So I don't have that figure in my life. So that sometimes you look up to someone and you say, oh my God, yes, I want that for me. Sorry. In my case, it wasn't like that at all. So I blame the movies because that's the only thing that I have. But I was pretty determined from a very young age. And
that's a young age.
Yeah. And I always stuck with that. Like, I will be a lawyer. And I remember we were in high school, and in last year, one of my friends' mother, she was a psychologist, and she gave this test, like vocational test, like to see where you are at. And of course, it was one of the major, like it doesn't say, oh yes, you will be a lawyer, but it gives you like an estimate on areas in your life. Like for me, it was like either a lawyer, a translator, which is something that crossed my mind, a psychologist, everything in the social area. So it was like a no-brainer. I will go to law school. So I graduated from law school in 2009, and I've been working like as a paralegal, a secretary, and assistant in law firms. And honestly, I wasn't really passionate about what I was doing because court didn't become my thing. Like, I didn't like that as much as I thought that I would, which is weird. If you're thinking about being a lawyer, you're supposed to like divorces and dealing with people's things. So for me, it was like, interesting. I am not really into this. So I do it, but I don't. What is it that
you didn't like about it?
It's really emotional when you deal with people's feelings, like in divorces with kids, and like who gets the house, or whenever we have to deal with an inheritance, like brothers and sisters, well, parents fighting over stuff. For me, it was like, why can't you just get along with? So I was looking to change jobs, and all of a sudden this job opportunity came, and they were looking for a lawyer who spoke English. You know that I live in Argentina. So I went to the job interview, and I was like, well, yeah, I don't know what a trademark is. Like, I didn't do that specialty in university. I didn't even take the course. It didn't even cross my mind. For me, like, being a lawyer was either criminal law, labor law, or family law, and that was it. And they hired me somehow. They knew that the background, you don't need that, you just learn it. And it was it. It was just it. 6 months in, and I just loved what I was doing. It became my passion. So I got to work with huge companies in a worldwide area. So we helped clients from Italy, from the States, from South Africa. I was speaking English with them. I was providing advice, and it was my job. You know when you know? And I was like that. So I did change a few firms, but I never looked back. So whenever I changed jobs, it was an IP attorney. Like, they were looking for an IP attorney, so I got a better one. And in 2019, my boyfriend told me, you know what? I heard you say so many times, someday I will. Someday I will have the time. I will, I would, I will. why don't you sit down and actually do it? So I took that leap of faith that you needed, and he helped me with the website. I had no idea of social, like I do have a Facebook account, but I don't have an IG account. So all of a sudden I was like, what the heck is this? I'm getting followers from like literally all over the world and writing about IP and wanting to do the same thing that I was doing in the past, but for me. So no, I don't have huge corporations just now, but I do get to work with people like one-on-ones, and they get me and they hire me because they like me, not the name that I stand for. Like my business is my name now, and they like me, not someone else's name. So in a way, I got bored of not being able to take the credit of whatever I was doing. Like I was giving advice, I was working a lot, and I loved what I do. What I did.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe someone else's name got in that email or in that letter, or after the meeting, someone else got the credit. So for me now, it's doing exactly what I like in a better way. So I hope a huge corporation, like a very well-known one, will find me. But just for now, I am extremely happy with the clients that I have, because most of them are just starting their businesses or have been in business probably less than 5 years. So I get to see the whole process. So I get to see them when they don't even have a website, until they get this registration certificate with the trademark, and they are so happy. And I see that joy in them. And it's so rewarding for me, because I know I did that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now the email gets my name and my business is my name. So I am actually taking the credit for me. And whenever they refer me, they refer me, not a firm in which I work.
Yeah. Wait, so in that company, or like companies that you have worked in, is that like a common practice where you don't really get credit, or like how does that look?
Yes and no. It will definitely depend on the office you work in, but what I mean is, yeah, I mean, for me in the legal world, it's something that I see a lot happening, even in not only in intellectual property firms, like on a daily basis. Like the paralegal does the work, and the lawyer signs the email, and the lawyer gets the advice, and the lawyer whatever, because we are supposed to be more important. But I don't like that. And you know what? Life sometimes is a roller coaster. So you never know when you will see that person again. I always say the same, like, you never know. Today you could be this high, and all of a sudden, for some reason, you go into bankruptcy and you just need to go look for a job, and life happens. So I don't know, for me, it's unfair sometimes that we cannot be the ones taking the credit for the job that we do, especially when the clients, then they call the office and they don't get the boss, they get me on the phone. So they know in a way where the advice is coming from, but we need to do the polite thing and just the owner's name on top, like at the bottom.
Yeah, I think that's something that it's such a good lesson even for leadership to give credit where credit is due, because a lot of times people, I think it comes down to all these hierarchies where the higher you are, the more important you are, which it makes sense. But at the same time, how good would you be able to operate if you didn't have this assistance? Because now your whole time has to go in this. So that's something that even in my experience, when I would have some jobs in the past, I would do my best to learn from them and see how can I in future, when let's say I have my own company, can be a better leader, or what is it that I can learn from this experience so I'll make sure that whenever I have my own employees, I will treat them certain way, or I will not treat them certain way. And that's something, even like, maybe you can talk a bit more on the greed. What is the role that greed plays in all this scenario? Because I feel like greed and ego, they can mess things up a lot.
Yeah. I think that has to do with how we are as individuals, because I come from the legal, like corporate world, and I've seen this, and this is not just me talking nonsense. This is me actually talking from what I've seen and working at places where I was treated as an equal because I was a lawyer. So I was superior to someone who was just starting to become a lawyer. And they were treated not as people, but rather than like garbage, like the help. And for me, it was so wrong in so many ways. And saying, I don't like this. I don't like. I was treated well. I wasn't mistreated because I was a lawyer. But what's the difference between an actual degree that you can show and a person? You were that person before. I was a secretary in the past. I used to do that, and I got the person coming towards my desk and saying, could you take a copy of this? And the photocopy was just there. You came all the way to here. You could just, well, like put the machine, just press whatever button it was, and you got your copy. But I was the help back then, so I just have to shut up and just do it. And I just did it. But today I am unequal to that people. And I do have my own business. So we're at the same level. And I wouldn't mistreat them just because that's not who I am.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you can say a lot, where that integrity or being fair, it doesn't matter what's your position, because as you said, anybody at any point can bypass you and they will remember what you did.
Absolutely. And even more, I mean, yes, I am a lawyer because that's what I like, but I'm not better than you because you decided you were a different thing. Or am I better than a doctor who's like curing COVID or curing cancer? No, I'm not. So are they better than a scientist? No, they are just different people. Let's not even go there. Who is a better person? Nobody or everyone. But a degree doesn't make you, like for me, an engineer or a chemist is way more intelligent than myself. A web designer, I just launched my new website. OMG. OMG, my respects to everyone who does the job. I got insane with that. And I was just watching, you know? My boyfriend he's my tech guy, so he was doing it for me. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't do it. And for him, it was like, no, because here you get the order and there. Okay, whatever, you say so. So, but for someone, I am a lawyer, so I get more respect than a web designer or a doctor. No, who says that?
Yeah, it's really interesting how and I have seen that with, it doesn't really matter what you do, but even the higher you get, the more you start to see the people's true colors, where it starts to get in their head, and they now start to think that, even like the fact that you see so many people who are famous, that they feel like their opinion is more important than somebody else's. So they now voice it all over, even though they might not be in position where they're educated enough to actually say that opinion. But that's something that is really interesting to me, to see how success or that prestige in a way that you get, the higher you get, how that affects people and how do they deal with that, because there are many people who actually deal well with that and they can leverage it in a good way. But there are some people who literally, they can destroy their careers as a result, because it gets so much in their heads that they lose that human understanding, that you still deal with humans. They have emotions. You have to keep that in mind.
Yes, absolutely. And I have read, I do like, I think it's called like self-esteem books. And I do like that. And I read so many success stories from so many people. And there was a book that changed my life and wanted me to do something else. Back in 2010, when I was actually looking for a job, before I got the IP world, into the IP world, my mom made me watch The Secret because it was becoming very popular, and she made me watch it. And I said that, and she made me watch it. And for me, it was like, okay, yeah, well, so I just asked the universe, what a piece of that. Nothing was going on for like a month. So I said, oh my gosh, there are people making millions out of this. So why can't I? Okay, so I did. I took my notes, I watched it again. And for me, it was, thank God I came across that. And I did get this job. I was looking for a job and I got this one. So you can call it universe, God, source, whatever you want. Believe or even don't believe and say it was fate or luck or whatever. For me, it was the inner work that I did. And there was a book that made me want more, which was an ES, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I don't know if you read it. If you haven't, please do. Please do. I will sound like a crypto person and thank me later. It is a book, there's an original version and there's a 2015 version, I think, with a few more chapters. So I read the original one in the beginning, and it was so eye-opening for me. Some people don't see the behind, like the thing in between the lines, and they just think it's a business book. I don't know business. I am not a salesperson, but I am a person who always wants more. That's where I am heading. But I don't forget where I came from. Like, I come from Argentina. I created this from Argentina. I want my international clients. I am getting my international clients. And I am going beyond all the blocks that my country is creating for me because this is what I want. But I don't forget where I come from. And this is not just me saying words because it makes me look good. It's because who I am. Like, the success or lack of success that I have is what I created for me, based on whatever I read in the past and what I keep reading. That's a book that I read at least once a year, at least once a year, sometimes more. Depending on my mood, I just grab the book and I always get something else. But there's a part in the story, and The Secret has that too, in the end, when they say, okay, everyone has a story. You may have been like a drug addict or in prison or very poor or homeless or whatever. And they say that is called, so what? Everyone's the same. We came from somewhere, but the life we create for us, it's the important thing. Oh, what we want for us, it's the important thing. But we never have to forget where we came from. Like, if you were homeless, luckily I wasn't homeless, but if you were homeless and now you have millions and a gazillion cars and all the millions in the world and a mansion, that is awesome for you. But you shouldn't forget the fact that up to a point, you had no home or food. So for me, whenever people think they are like in a better level, just because you have a couple millions or even more, does that make you a better person? No, it just makes you a millionaire. And maybe I'm not, or maybe I am, and you don't know. I don't brag about that. I may say, oh yeah, so I don't know, I'm having a podcast. For me, something very like, it may help my business or not, but for me, it's something that I got for me. I brag, but in an innocent way, I want to say. But you don't have to forget where you came from. It's the same as people like going into a cab and not even saying hello to the person. It happened to me once because I was taking the bus like super early in the morning to take me to work. And I was like, X amount, whatever the fee was. And he was like, good morning. And I was like, oh my God, that is so rude of me. But I was so sleepy that I didn't even realize that I wasn't saying hi to the person. And you know what? That fixed me for life. Because whenever I go into the bus or a cab or whatever, I'm like, good morning, hi. So could you help me with whatever? Or like into a store. The person behind that, it's a person, and maybe they are having a lousy day and you don't know that as well. Or maybe you are having a lousy day, but it's not their fault.
Yeah, that is so true. Even as you were speaking, I was thinking about that. In a way, you are describing being humble and staying humble, and
Exactly.
and taking that with you no matter how high you get, because at the end of the day, we all are humans. And the fact that you have more zeros behind your one, let's say, doesn't mean that you actually are worth more. But it's actually interesting how, in a way, it might even be that society is built that way, where the more money you have, the more value you have, and things like that. But a lot of times, people who have more money, they have more money because they have sacrificed something. So they might even sacrifice family time or spending time with their friends and things like that. So the fact that you have more money doesn't mean that you now are a better human. You might actually be, if we talk about certain values of human, you might even be worse off because you have sacrificed so much just to get to these numbers that, and it also depends on the reason behind it. Maybe you want to get to those numbers so that you can provide your family or your community, things like that. But sometimes it's just greed. It's just, I want to get this to prove this or that, or to be this or be able to do this. And it's so interesting how that can affect you. And now you think that you're better, even though you're pretty much alone, because you have pushed everybody like away by being the person you have been, just to go through that greed. But
and sometimes it's just an appearance. I am in a gazillion groups in Facebook, networking and getting my clients from groups in Facebook. This is not something against them because I just love them. My clients come from there, but I never talk numbers. What do you care how much I make? Like, I could say I am a 7-figure IP attorney. Come to, and would you trust me more if I said that? Or I hate that sales script that I see every 5 seconds. Like, I left corporate, I am making 6 figures in a week, and I am gifting you the solution for that. I cannot see how people buy that. Honestly, I don't know how people buy that. Like, the first time you read it, you may say, oh, wow, I want that for me. Because we see a million and probably our eyes sparkle because that's the way we are. But maybe we don't all want the millions. Maybe we don't all want the homes. Maybe we don't all want whatever you want. We don't all want the same, and that's a good thing, because otherwise, I don't know. But I hate, I hate it is a very strong word, but I don't like exactly. I dislike how do we put it? Like the society we live in which, like, I mean, everyone follows influencers, but they are also people. Like, they may have a really nice picture and probably it took 50 shots to get there. And you don't know what's behind that. And sometimes I do follow, I like makeup artists, so I follow a few of them. And sometimes they're like, don't you see that I am a person? How dare you get into my life that bad? So that's why my personal profile goes a separate way from my business life. Like, I don't make them overlap. You will never see a business promo or anything in my personal profile, and you will never see what I'm having for dinner in my business life, because I don't want them to overlap. Like, the attorney goes this way and the person goes that way. And I do build a relationship with my clients, don't get me wrong, but for people who doesn't know me, what do they care how much money I make?
Yeah.
Or where I am going on holidays, or if I'm having breakfast in a specific way or place.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's something that I have seen. I would even think that people that are showing that, it might be that they are attempting to get certain impression on people.
Absolutely.
But if you're actually really good at your job, you don't need to throw all these facts at somebody. You just know you're good at the job. Oh, you need this, I can get it done. It doesn't really matter about anything else, because you are not now in a position where you have to prove something. And I think that's where these people, when they give those numbers, they feel like they have to prove something to you. Or sometimes they actually are so happy about their success that I want to share that with somebody else. But that's again, like, why is it that important for you to share that with somebody else? Like,
or even when you see the numbers going up and down, and the, like, I don't know, for me it's fake. I don't know. The other day I commented on a post from someone, I don't know this person, and she was like, why people do only posts for leads? Why do they think that's good? And I was like, you know what, when I started my business, I was told that I should show me and I should share my stuff, like, and I said no. Maybe it goes against the business model, whatever that is, right? But I stayed true to what I was, to what I am as a person. And maybe my posts into like intellectual property, they're not fun enough, or they are not as fun as, I don't know, the influencer showing what's in her purse or what's in her daily life, or a vlog. They might not be as interesting as that, but you know what? I do still get my soul clients, like people who
well, that's the thing. Like,
will come.
I think with your posts, they are not even targeting at entertainment. They are targeting people who actually need that. So in your, and that's something that I have seen even when it comes to social media, that people want to have big following. And I'm like, if you're not doing something that is going viral, or you're not doing any like dances or stuff like that, or entertainment, you probably will get less people following you, but it doesn't mean that they are less qualified leads, let's say, or they don't. It's in a way like we look so much on the, or we, and I think I was literally thinking about it this morning on the way to the gym, that you see so many people who literally have millions of followers, but it does them nothing, really. Okay, you have a million followers. So what? Like, it doesn't really change anything. Yeah. And
if you don't have, like, I am not a very, I have social media, but I'm not an expert in that, and I'm not pretending to be one. But you just have to reach that one person that will actually hire you. For me, even in the work that I do, like, I'm not trying to be a robot. Like, I see that as well. Oh, I want passive income, passive income, passive income. Do you ever consider working? Like, for me, it's like that. So I am extremely passionate about what I do, and I love what I do. So why wouldn't I work? So I always say to my clients, I will never send you over a post so you pay me and you get whatever that is, so you just DIY. What's the purpose in that? So I think we live in a fast world with easy solution, fake lives, because we all get the, like, behind a photo, there's a story. And yeah, you might be smiling in that picture, but where were you before that? Were you crying? Were you just supposed? How many times have you read from couples that got divorced and you were like, but they were in the awards together? And we're just talking famous people, like, and I will not say names, but they were so happy a week ago in whatever trip they were taking. And you're like, yeah, well, it's a fake. So comparisons always also, they won't lead us somewhere. But it's I think it's a process, and we all, I think it's most of us sins. Like, we all compare, like, why does she, or why does he, or why do they, and not me? I think it's very easy.
Or even like we try to show up better than we might be. Even if we feel really bad, we still want to show up as like, I'm this motivating person, you know, this and that.
So yeah, I personally have changed maybe a few things. I have done a new logo, a new feed, a new website. I might speak in a different way that I would have in the past, but I'm still not a salesperson myself. So I'm not trying to pretend someone that I'm not, because you know what? In the beginning, I did work with someone and she had this beautiful script for me. And I was like, what? Should I address a person and say, what are your pain points? No, I'm not going to say that, because for me, it sounded so fake. And I cannot
I don't even think that in what you do, it's that relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we think, and I put myself into it, like we think there's a certain correct way of doing stuff in order to get a result. But if it's not who you are, you could be a salesperson like an innate person like that. And if it comes naturally to you, good for you. Stay that way. Like, it's not me trying not like to block sales or anything. We all need sales. But I cannot be a different person from this.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Actually, what you can do is you can actually use who you are in creating your own sales process. You know, it's not that now there's only one way to sell. I think it's just something that we see online, that there's like this one specific, or like, I don't know, several people sell their one way of selling. But like at the same time, if it's not who you are, then that approach will not fit you. So you won't even succeed in that approach unless you go and be miserable, just going through with it and just, you know, building that skill. Then you might become good at that skill, but you will not really enjoy the process itself, because you know it's not who you are.
Yeah. And if you're trying to be someone you're not, you might get a result eventually, because I mean, sometimes it's hard not to get a positive result.
Yeah.
But you may lose yourself in the middle.
Yeah. And then you just feel miserable. And and I have seen this
with
so many
millions.
People. Yeah. If you get lucky to get that far, because many times when the longer you go, a lot of times if you're not being authentic, the more miserable you feel, because now you can't really be you. You have to be this like certain person, this certain persona, and just try to play that role where it's not you. And you know that nobody really knows who you really are, because you feel like you can't show that person. So the further you go, the more miserable you are. And that's something that I feel that I even think that so many people think that you have to have this persona, and it might actually, now that I think, it might go back to self-esteem, that they think that I can't really become successful with who I am. So I have to be this like persona, again, like as you said, the person you see in movies, this like successful, this like suits, things like that. Only with that can you be successful. But what if you don't like corporate world? What if it's not you?
Exactly.
Even like your story, you did it for a while. I think it was like 10 years, something like that. So that's
exactly 10 years. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's long enough for you to understand that this is not me. This really isn't me. But during that time, you actually found your passion. So that's a good thing that came from it. But even with that, you understood, I don't like that environment. And does it mean that you now, let's say, can be less successful when you go on your own? No, but I think that's something that a lot of times stops people from taking that step, where they feel that, but what will I do on my own, you know? And I'm really happy that your boyfriend supported you on this. Because
oh, he is. Honestly, yes. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him and his push. Because it's so easy not to have time. Like at this point, I'm 37 years old. I started to work. I said 10 years corporate. Yes, but as an attorney. But I started to work when I was, I think, 20. So I did that for a bit over that time. I think so. It was, I think, 15 years, 14 years, something like that. So sometimes you know what you have to do, but you don't do it and you procrastinate and you don't have the time. and we hide behind the paycheck. And it's okay, I'm not judging.
Yeah.
But it's our comfort zone. Okay, and it's not easy. For the first few months,
Yeah.
I kept showing up and writing my articles, talking to maybe a friend or maybe someone or maybe me, but I still did show up, and I believed that it would be what I wanted. And for me, it wasn't easy, but you just need to show up. So I did feel like a fake at that point. Sally,
Do you know why?
oh yeah, I am an, yeah, come again?
Do you know why you felt like fake?
Oh yeah, that's why I also had the separate personal from the business part, because one thing is to be an employee for an international firm that pays me.
Yeah.
So I have the cool job, the corporate one. But a different story is to say, oh yeah, I am an intellectual property attorney and I help clients from all over the world. Oh yeah, sweetie, where are they? You know? So that's also a main reason why I didn't put anything about business in my personal profile, even having some international audience in my Facebook account. Because I felt like, but if I don't get a client, what would happen? So they would say like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
So we can hear all the self-help in the world, but until this gets fixed, we just think, what would they be saying? Like, what would they say if I don't? What would they? I don't care. So now I am comfortable enough. I still keep things separate.
Yeah.
But today, I do have my clients worldwide, and I am in Argentina, and most of my clients come from the States, Canada, and the European Union. Like, I have clients in Argentina, but they are like 5% of what I get on a monthly basis. So I felt like a fake because I when you don't have that one client yet, it's like, who are you talking to? Really? And it took that one person, I still remember her name. It was a woman. And one day I got her message and she was like, hey, you know what? I remember us talking, and would you be able? Yes. Oh my God, yes. And it took that one person to put all my self-esteem up to here. Because if I got one, why wouldn't I take more? Like, it's stupid. Why wouldn't I? And the role started.
Yeah, and this was with you having literally 10 years of experience, over 10 years of experience in the field. It's not like you now get out of school and you start this thing on your own. You literally had more than 10 years, like 15 years in the field already. And still that feeling that, who am I to get this like first client, or, you know, and that is really interesting to me, because I see many people who literally, even coaches, they finish the course and there's like, I feel like there's too many coaches out there, but they finish the course and they go out there, they try to get a client and things like that. They're not sure whether they can help or not because they haven't done it before. But it's so interesting hearing that even as you go in your own thing after 10 years in the field, you still have that feeling that, like, who am I to do this?
It was only because I didn't have the clients, because whenever I speak about what I do, I am the most comfortable person in the world.
Exactly.
Just yesterday, I was in a group and they were like, are you an extrovert or an introvert? What would you say about that? About me?
I think you might be similar to me. I think you're an introvert, but you might appear as an extrovert.
Exactly. So
and it might also be because when you talk about what you love, you become so passionate that you just,
I forget. Like at this point, I don't even remember that you're recording myself.
Yeah.
I don't. And I do the hands and I do the faces and I'll do all that. And I am an introvert, but nobody believes that, because where am I the introvert? It's not when I'm talking about IP, because for that, I know that. So I would speak about that, and I am comfortable in about speaking about that.
Oh, wait, so in your situation, it was more like sales process itself, not as much the, like initially to get that first client, that the challenge felt like that sales?
It wasn't, no, for me, I mean, when I started to speak for to get the clients,
Yeah.
For me, it was like, so I will explain what I'm doing, how I can help, and you just say if you like me or not.
Mhm.
Like, I don't do the pushy follow-up or the, if they say I need to talk to my husband, okay, like, I wouldn't say, but why wouldn't your husband support your process? Like, I don't do things like that, because for me, that is more pushy or more like, I don't know, I give the space. So for me, if the person is at the point of hiring me, they would. And if they are not, it's okay. He or she wasn't my ideal client.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
well, that's
I
what I'm
don't
trying
do.
to understand, because I have talked to a lot of people where they talk about how they got their first client when they literally just start off. But you had a lot of experience, so I just want to understand what was that feeling coming from? What was causing it? Because that is, it might even just be that I'm not thinking like how, like one way how that could be happening, the process where, let's say when you work in a corporation, it's different because that is not like attached to you in your name. But let's say if you do it yourself, now that is it, like that is you.
Exactly. So when I was working as an employee, they didn't hire me, they hired the firm's reputation.
Yeah.
They happened to talk to me in the process, but they didn't come because of me.
Okay,
now,
so that
if
makes
they
sense.
come, it's because they came for me. Like, if you write in a group, hey, I don't know, I need help with trademarks or with contracts, I would say, hey, I can help you.
Yeah.
I will not push you into that, or I will not say, buy this bundle from me. Never.
No.
Ever. Ever. And I hate this sales thing too. Like, you get this and that and that and that. Or it should have been 10K, but today you're only getting it for $15. And no, if my stuff it's worth 10K, I will charge 10K. I will not trick you into purchasing whatever. Like, if you're selling your things for $15, that's worth $13 or 15. It's not worth 10K.
No.
It's just not. So that's where I am not a salesperson. Like, you only get the promo for the next 5 hours and that's it. And you get the clock counting backwards.
Yeah.
You will never see that in my community, ever. I go against that.
Yeah. Well, that's again, like you have found what is you and what is your approach that actually works for you, that you feel comfortable with. And I think that's the important thing, is that to find what works for you. And if you know that all these like techniques and discounts and things like that don't work for you, or you don't feel like that is something that represents you well, don't do it. And I think that's something that a lot of times people might struggle with, where, as you said, that you learn that this is not what I do. This is not really, it doesn't feel right with me. And a lot of times people still do it. And that's actually the reason why they don't get result. It might not be because the technique is not working, but because they just don't feel that technique that well. They don't have that, it doesn't feel right. But they still go and do it, and they're surprised where there's no results. It's just not for you. And in your case, the good thing is that you were able to realize that, and you find your way, what works for you, and you stick to that, and that's where you get results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so getting back to the intellectual property.
Okay.
So is there anything that, let's say, even like some of the main things that you have noticed that are now really important in the digital age, with some people that you have worked with, that they need to keep in mind or pay attention to?
Yes. So we live in a world where we all have websites and social media handles. So I have only Facebook and Instagram, but you may have TikTok or Pinterest or the others. So we think it's okay to share stuff from, let's say I liked one of your posts and I share it in my stories and I just tag you. So you may say, hey, cool, Maria liked my post and free advertising. Or you may say, you cannot use like my post because it's my copyright, it's my intellectual property, and you would be right. So be very careful on what you are doing on social media and how you are sharing your things.
Yeah.
We all want clients, and those clients give us testimonials. But it's not okay to share like the name of the person and their opinion on you unless they have actually said it's okay for you to use it. And that's why you need a release agreement from them signed. So there's quite a few tricks. Of course, you need to have them signed a document, or you need to get the author's permission to share your copyrights, their copyrights. But some people may think it's okay. The other day I posted, I comment on someone's post and she never replied. Probably she blocked me. She was a designer and someone had hired her to do a logo. So let's say it was you. You hire a person because you want your business logo. And then you intend to have your trademark filed in order to protect that logo. This person who you are paying money posted on a group in Facebook, hey, so I have a client, which one of these 4 designs would you like more? Which ones do you think it's more appealing? And I commented, please don't do that. The person may want to file a trademark and your logo may get stolen. And this person lost all possible rights. And I'm not saying she did it on purpose, maybe she didn't know, but we are so exposed. Like if you are paying someone to handle your social media, you should have a contract with them in which we state that whatever content they create for you, it's yours, not theirs. Otherwise, if it came out of them, honestly, it's theirs, not yours. That's the whole made to hire situation. So sometimes we act because we don't know, and it takes one bad experience to change that. So I've had clients who lost probably everything. I had to rebrand and lost a business name because they didn't have it protected, or didn't get paid because they didn't have the accurate contract. So it takes one bad experience to decide that I should talk to a lawyer, probably into this field, to see what's going on.
So as you were talking about sharing somebody's content, that's something that I wrote down in my notes is fair use. That's something that I was listening about where the person speaking, he said that he pretty much asked the question, can you use copyrighted work without the owner's permission? And he said the short answer is no, you can't.
Yes.
But the long answer, he said, is that you need, if you give them credit, because a lot of times I think even on social media, you see so many times when, let's say, anybody really shares something on their stories. But a lot of times you can see who created that content. So when you share it, you actually share a post that was created by somebody else. And a lot of times people even tag them in. So like, and that's why I want to hear your input in that. Is that okay? Because for me personally, whenever I share something, or even when I talk to somebody and I mention something, I want to give credit to the person who came up with that, or I heard that did that. But in my case, it just seems like it's the fair thing to do. I don't know the legal behind it, but maybe you can talk more about the legal.
So the answer you found, it's actually what I would say. The short answer is no, but the long answer is no, but. So you can share content from someone by, of course, first of all, we need to get them credit for whatever they are. But if this person reaches back to you, so let's say you like the post that I did, and it's, I don't know, it's about copyright, and you say, hey, you know what? Add, and you tag me and you share that on your stories or even on your feed. It doesn't matter where. So I may say, cool, free advertising. Or I may say, in order for you to share my content, I want X amount of money as my authorization. You really need, this is a fact, you really need the author's signed authorization to proceed. Because it is my copyright. So sometimes people think that but I tagged her, and that only means you are not trying to take the credit for that. That only means that you are not pretending to be the author of that. But it doesn't mean that it's not my copyright and I should get paid if I want it. So if probably, like, whenever that happened to me, I saw that as, okay, it's advertising, and that's it. A different story is when you see, let's say you have a post on something and you just see a copycat, like all words are the same. That's a different story we are talking about. And now we are talking legal stuff. But the short answer is you shouldn't share anything that you weren't or authorized for. So if you want to share something, I mean, the correct way is an agreement, of course, like a written one, and maybe not for just for one story. Let's not be stupid on this. So whenever I talk copyright, I'm not talking about one Instagram photo or one blog post. Okay, so we are talking about like a book or a picture. Like if I am a photographer and you're sharing a picture of mine, that is definitely my copyright. Okay, so for example, going back to copyright and when and how and what should I copyright? So everything is your copyright. But I do have my website and I do blog about intellectual property. Do I have copyrights? Like, have I filed copyrights for my stuff? The honest answer is no, I haven't. And you would say, are you kidding me? You are the attorney. Why haven't you? And the answer for that is, it's a blog. So I only write or I only post about things that you can Google. I didn't create the trademark concept. I didn't create the patent. I didn't come up with intellectual property. A different story would be if I wrote a book. Because that book, I will sell that book, and I definitely want the copyrights on that, even if I speak about intellectual property. Because that means that I am writing not a story, because it won't be a fiction, but it is a content beyond a web post or a blog post. So since I want to sell that, probably if I'm an author, I would definitely want to have my copyrights on that. Because if you say, hey, this is a cool book, I will just copycat, I will just copy paste everything, and I will file the copyrights for that and sell it as my own book, you will get better rights than me. And the money that I didn't spend in copywriting my stuff, I need to spend in court in the future, trying to prove that, in fact, I actually came up with that before you, and you copied that.
Yeah. Wait, so with the social media, because social media by itself, it kind of is built on sharing. You share, and that's how you grow, and people share, and people start to follow you, things like that. How do you draw the line when it can be shared or it can't be shared, or at what point you need to ask permission or give credit? Because even on social media, what is put out there, that's publicly. That would be different if, let's say, I'm just like speculating, you just you just go from there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just giving you information to play with. But let's say if I would now go and share something that, let's say, from somebody else's course, and I share something that somebody else has to pay for to access that information, then I feel like that's not something they want to publicly share, things like that. So how do you draw a line between that, and at what point do you know, okay, this is where I need to have like even signed document from them that they agree with this, or like just go from there? I just gave you information, you know where to go.
Yeah, the legal answer would be you need to have every single person's authorization in order for you to be able to share anything. That's the legal answer. The daily answer would be if the person doesn't reach back, I think you're good to go. Not that you're good to go, but you won't have any issues, because for her, it might be free advertising. So I think the answer is the line is crossed at the point in which you are reached by the author and they say, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Just stop. It's my program, my course. Don't share it because I didn't give you permission for that. Yeah. So at that point, you just have to zip it and do what they ask because they own that. So it could happen, and I will give you an example in a different scenario because it involves music.
Okay.
Back in, I think it was 2014 or 18, it was one of the last two World Cups. Argentina is very popular with football. Someone in here came up with a song to sing whenever players were playing football. And that song had the rhythm of one of Creedence songs. Do you know Creedence, the band?
Yeah.
Okay. So the copyright attorney would say they need to have Creedence's approval, authorization, and pay them because the rhythm is their copyright. That's the honest legal answer. So this story can go either two ways. Creedence may say, let's take them to court and get the actual benefits from the song, or they could say, hey, so cool. Actually, someone, I can't remember who, approached Creedence and they say to them, hey, do you know that in Argentina they are playing a song with one of your songs? And they were like, no, we didn't know. And when they showed them, they were really excited about that. And they were like, oh my God, we are so honored that from all the songs in the world, you chose one of ours to do this. So that was a happy ending for everyone, but it could have gone the other way. So let's say that all of a sudden, a musician goes into a show and plays someone else's song, like, I don't know, Celine Dion singing, I don't know, Queen's music, which actually I've seen her. She needs to have Queen's authorization to proceed. And depending on the songwriters, probably Brian May at this point, but the songwriters, why? Because they need to pay the author. Because in this scenario, like she's doing a show singing another person's song and she didn't come up with that. So you can sing, but at the moment that you are getting money from that, that is the line that you shouldn't cross when it comes to copyright. So you can have a CD or whatever they are nowadays. You could have your own record done with your lyrics, and you can have any other person singing your songs.
Yeah.
The more famous, the better for you. But you should authorize them and actually get money from that. So we have singers who are songwriters and they have come up with their own songs. And then we have singers who are only performers and someone else does the song for them. Well, they do have a special agreement Like if I work with you or for you, I just write your songs. I am, of course, giving you permission to sing, but there's a legal document signed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to see what has to happen behind the scenes, where seemingly it's like a small thing, seemingly, but actually it's not. And how it all has to be monitored or legalized and all this stuff. Another question. So it's about, wait, I have to make sure I say it right. It's about the service marks and common law trademarks, TM and SM. And that is something that, so I will explain what I want to understand. So from what I understood from the person speaking in the video that I was watching, that if you now have, like, let's say Joe's Garage, you can have it, you can't really have it as a trademark, but you can have it as TM. So that somebody next to you wants to open like Joe's Garage, they can't, or something like that. Or no, you can now show that you were the first. But when it comes to online, what I understood from what he explained is now everything is in a way like global. So if you're global, you can't really do that. But one thing I wanted to ask you is about the registered trademark, because that's something that he also mentioned, that so many people think that you can just put it on your website or somewhere else. But he actually said that you can get fined quite a big amount if you do that. So can you talk more on this? Because this is something that, again, it might seem like a small thing, but it actually isn't.
Yes. So we have the C with the circle, we have the R with the circle, we have everything. If you actually filed the copyrights or the trademark, went through the process and actually have your, let's go to trademark, your registration certificate, then you can put DR round. Because that means your brand, your trademark, your name will be registered. What happens if you don't? Nothing. Because you own it. It's the way of showing to people that you actually own that. But what happens in reality? And this is something that I see it on a daily basis. Like you have a business name and you put DR. If that trademark isn't actually filed at the trademark office, that name is available. So I can go, I can file, and I have your rights. And you know what? I can send you a cease and desist letter, or even, let's forget the legal. I can send you an email saying, that is my name, please stop using it. This is my proof. And you just have to stop using that. And if you're gonna fight back, what you have to do is spend all the money in the world in order to get a judge to say, I think you stole that name. And it's probably not going to be your way. Okay, so the C with the circle means copyright. That is what people use mostly at websites at the bottom, like all rights reserved and C with the copyright. Honestly, if you don't have actual copyrights filed on that, the C it's worthless. And the same goes with the R with the round. TM is used whenever we want to claim rights on a trademark. But again, if you don't go through the process at the trademark office, it's pointless. You can add anything you want, but if I see that's my trademark you're using, you will get into trouble. Okay, and SM means service mark. So that's the difference between a product mark and a trademark mark. So in my case, I offer a service, so it's a service mark. And TM is mostly used for products, but honestly, it's more popular to see the TM among, like, not for me, but it's around people who aren't quite sure on the terms. They would use the TM rather than the SM. So we have to file an application, we have 45 classes, and we need to see where it goes. So there are certain classes for products, so let's say you want to sell a machine or clothing or shoes or makeup, books, whatever you want, that would be a product trademark. And a service trademark would be if you're like an accountant, a coach, a lawyer, a provider of any kind, but you're selling a service, not a product.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's the story.
So where does, because, well, that video, it wasn't the newest one, it was like 7 years old, but he was telling there that you can get, if you use that R with a circle, you can get like 10,000 fines, something like that, just for using that symbol.
Yes, because I don't know which video you saw and where that person lived. So
I think it was Colombia.
It depends on the countries, but
Yeah.
you can get fines, period. So sometimes it doesn't matter the length, like how long it was, or the amount of money. The important thing is you can actually get into trouble for that.
Yeah.
And there's a story as well, like there's no such a thing as an international protection. So if he's in Colombia and I filed a trademark in the USA, the two trademarks will coexist because USPTO and Colombian Trademark Office, two different stories.
Yeah.
Okay. But the main difference will be in this. If I am trying to pretend to be the other person, then I get into trouble in an international way. Okay. Both trademarks can coexist as long as I am not trying to pretend to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get international protection, like the rest of the world cannot use my same name, but you do have actions to actually take if someone tries to steal like your clients and confuse them into thinking they are you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And with the one thing that I understood, that with trademarks, you have to apply pretty much in each country separately, but with copyrights, it's not the same. I understood that with copyrights, it's kind of, once you apply, you can just explain. You probably can explain better.
Sure. So let's go to copyrights first because it's easier. So you can file copyrights at your country's trademark office, period. And you get copyright in there, and that will be fine. But when it comes to the intellectual property world, we have international conventions. Not every single country in the world has signed those conventions. Some countries don't want to. Some countries are like, they will sign it eventually. So when we have copyrights, we can file it two ways. One, in your own country, and that's it. And the second way is to file it in your country through a convention, a specific one, which is the Berne Convention, which will enforce your rights in the, I think it's 170 plus 79, close to 200 countries. You will be able to enforce your rights. So if I do a copy and I am within one of those countries, you will still have your own rights. So you will be able, in a way, to commercialize those rights within all those countries, and you will be fine. What happens with trademarks? That's a different story. So trademark go into like the region, the space, the country. So there are certain, like European Union allows community trademarks within the countries of the European Union. In Africa, it happens the same within a certain, it calls a repo. And in Latin America, we have one, and I can't remember the name now, and it involves a certain amount of countries. Other than those areas, you have to file rights individually. But what do I mean? If you are a service provider, and we have, like myself, I have an online business and I have clients from all over the world. Does it mean that I have my trademark file in different countries? No, it doesn't. Why? Because my services come from here and I don't have an office in that specific country.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to products. If you are a beverage company or you are a food company and you are spreading worldwide, and we can find several trademarks among the countries, that definitely means that these companies have filed those rights in these specific countries because they have gone through a whole process. They also need like special authorizations other than the trademark, because you've seen that the packaging of products, it's not quite the same from country to country.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're used to a certain packaging, and when you go to a different country, it's somehow different.
Yeah.
And that is due to each country's regulations. Okay, so there's a whole world behind that, which I am kind of familiar, but not quite, because we have specific people for that. So if you want to sell a beverage or a food or things like that, you need the trademark to be filed at this specific country, because otherwise you may sell the stuff, but if the name is vacant, it's available to be filed, someone can actually do that. And this happened a few years ago, and I suck at technology, but with PS, PlayStation, I think it was 5 or something like that. So you have PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and I think it was 5. And there was a country specifically, I can't remember the country, I'm sorry, but someone filed SP5. So now the actual company can't file for the rights in that specific country. And it's so silly. But if they wanted to use that specific name, they need to buy that from the actual owner.
But that is
why
regarding that country, if they want to use it in that country.
Come again?
So they need to do that if they want to use or like sell that product in that country or any country? Okay.
No, in that specific country.
Yeah.
So let's say that I want to have a product sold in Italy. I don't get the trademark in Italy, and I start to sell the product. If someone had the name, I will not be able to sell that. Unless I come to a certain type of agreement with these people, or if I buy the trademark from them.
Yeah.
If someone else has the name, I cannot use it. That's why it's important whenever you have a product that you want to launch, because there will be, like, if you have a beverage company or a food company, they have companies, actually like buildings in that country to manufacture the food, the beverage, or whatever we are talking about. Even like bags, I mean, it's a very general one. So whenever we have a product, we also need to make sure that this company is using or it's in alignment with the specific country's regulations as well. Okay.
Oh, I had such a good question in my mind, but I forgot it.
It'll
come. It was really interesting thing. So what is the name of what is actually like organization or whatever that is actually I don't know, being in charge of all this?
Can you repeat the question?
In a way, like what is how do I explain it? Like what is regulating all this? Because this is a huge thing to regulate.
Intellectual property?
Yeah.
Oh, each country individually.
Okay.
So if you are in the States, we need to go with anything that it's required in the States. If you got if you file the copyright and you have it in more than one country, it's okay. But the filing was in one certain place, in one specific place. So everything is regulated by the country you filed your rights in.
Okay. So in a way, the more countries you want to be in, then the more you can get quite complex. Because
I mean, you will not go viral. Like I just started my business and I go to 40 different countries. It can happen, but it's very rare. And that's why it's important to have one person that you trust that will be able to do it for you and to be there. Like if we are talking 40 different countries, even 5 different countries. I have a client and she's living in a certain country and she had a patent and we spread to 7 different locations. And that doesn't mean that she did everything. We cannot do everything. And we go back to our prior conversation. We cannot do everything ourselves. We need help. We need support. And we need to make sure that whenever we are going big, we have specific people. And I know everything is a budget because it is. I'm not pretending to live in a different world. But we need to make sure we have people who has our backs.
How do you determine whether someone is that person?
I think sometimes you just know. I've had clients who hired me over a text. And the first time that happened, I was like, but she didn't even talk to me. Like, is this for
with
real?
No conversation?
No conversation, no seeing me, like no this, and no call. Like she asked me a few questions over Facebook Messenger. And she was like, okay, let's go for it. And I was like, really? But is this real? So the first time that happened, I was a bit like hesitant, like, is this person going to pay me? Or yeah, she did. But she was like this fast. And sometimes you just get the vibe. I think in my case, I was luckier because some people I knew from my background experience, like from my previous experience. So I already knew how they worked and they kind of knew me because of my past. So I knew them. So
I don't think it's even luck. That is your experience. That's not luck. That is your life experience that's coming in, you know?
Definitely. That's where
you created your own luck.
What?
You created your own luck.
Well, yeah, I don't believe in luck. I mean, I always say, like, I don't believe in luck. I don't consider myself to be a lucky person. I work for what I want, honestly. So in this case, I trust in people. Maybe because in the past I had to, because the firm trusted in them, but by seeing how they handle certain stuff, you know, you can trust them. And with others, you say, you know what, I will never go to that specific person for these other reasons.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how like it's interesting how that, as you said, even like experience and gut feeling that you have, that a lot of times if we actually listen to it, and it's something that it would be interesting for me to get somebody on who might even be able to like explain how it works, because you have this feeling that I probably won't be able to work with this person. And no matter how good is the deal, even if you go through it, you see that I was right. Even though it might have been a good deal, but it was such a headache, so much stress, so much this and that. And it's really interesting how we have this like inner compass. What should we do? What we shouldn't do? But a lot of times we choose not to listen to that. And it might even be the case that you, like, even with starting your business, you probably knew that it was time. You had to start it. And but you might needed that like external nudge, being your boyfriend saying like, go for it. It's time. How long can you keep doing this? You know? And even how, maybe you can talk more about how important is it to have this like external support, or having somebody in your corner who can support you or give you that a little push at times when you need it.
I think you cannot do it alone. If you are alone, and I had 2 trials like in the past with friends. I was going to be the IP attorney and they were going to handle certain things, other things, and we were kind of discussing a partnership, and it didn't get the results expected. And there was a reason for that. I think this time it was actually time for me to decide to do it on my own, meaning only IP, like only my thing and not divorces as well. But I think that no matter what you decide to do, you just need to have people by your side. We may be on a tight budget. In the very beginning, I was on a tight budget. Like I wasn't it. And it's 3.5 years in, I just finished my website, like my preview website, and in a way that I'm comfortable with it. My sister is my PR girl because she does that and she gives me the best advices in the world. And then I have a designer, and then I have my tech guy who happens to be my boyfriend. But I think it's important to have support, like someone being your cheerleader, because we are those people for our friends. And whenever I have a friend and she's feeling depressed for whatever reason, I am there and I'm like, but no, it will get better. It will improve. It's just a phase. But it's so damn hard to see that for ourselves. You're a fraud. Who the hell do you think you are? You're not going to get international clients. Are you sending out resumes? Like, we don't need to hear that from others because we already feel that about ourselves. And it's so easy. It's so easy to push, press, or play and start with that kind of talking to us. It's so hard. So I think it's really important to surround ourselves, first of all, with supportive people. And if we are acquaintances in a way, and they can help us somehow, like if you have a friend who happens to be an accountant, just take her. Like have her, like give her some free barter if you can't pay her, but have people who you can trust. In the beginning, I worked with 2 VAs, and for me, it was the worst experience ever. And I don't have a VA anymore.
What was it? What was bad about it?
So we kind of bartered, and I was learning the whole Instagram posting situation. So I did everything. It was 2 different experiences in the beginning, and I think it was 1 year in. So I like things done a certain way. And if I don't have that, I may freak out, you know? So if things don't, I mean, I like things done a certain way, but I can be flexible, but if I see the other person is actually doing the work, if I don't see the results that you kind of promised, I won't like that at all. At all. So yeah, that was
I think most people wouldn't like that.
Yes. And situation number 2, it was pretty similar to that. I had to, like, are you going to post? Like, it's, I don't know, it's a Tuesday at 5 p.m., which I am supposed to post. And I told you a specific time for a reason, and same situation, like 2 different people, same situation. And for me, it was so damn frustrating, that I decided that at least for that, I would just have me. And as I told you, my sister who helps me. Like I do everything but she may give me a few pointers. Why don't you try this? Do the stories that way, or not the reels because I refuse to have them, but yes.
Yeah, that is interesting. Even the importance of that, having that theme where now you don't have to. And I think the challenge a lot of times is that beginning where you're in a way like solopreneur. You can't really at least like afford, or you're not in a position where you can be like, oh, I want this, and I get it all, you know? And I think many times it's a challenge just to go through that period where you now start to move towards building a team or having people around you that you can get to do certain things. And it feels overwhelming because you feel like you have to do everything. Like, and those things that you do, technically, you don't really get paid for. You get paid for the actual service that you offer. but still those are the things that you have to do. You have to have these certain, like, let's say even website or some sort of social media or something like that. You have to have it. And it's and I think that's where a lot of times people quit or give up. But at the same time, even if you start off by yourself, you won't have to do it forever. And sometimes it's even good that you can learn that skill so that if you get somebody to help you, you can teach them, or you can teach them the way you would want it to be done because you have learned that this works for you. If they can't learn it, well, that's a different question. Then you might need somebody else, like not everybody can do everything, but that's something that I feel that so many times people feel overwhelmed, or they might even get in this victim mindset that, oh my gosh, I have to do everything. I don't have time for this or that, and I have to do this. But usually what I say is that this is, and that's something that I have heard about so many successful people say, that they actually miss those times at the beginning of their business where they had to do everything. They were literally working all day, every day. And I don't remember who it was who said it, but he said that that's where he actually learned the most about himself, because he was stretched outside of comfort zone all day, every day. And then over time, you become like more comfortable. You start to get more money. You start to get like higher team, things like that. But that's something that was really interesting for me. That it's not one person who said it. So many people said it. Those beginning times, those are actually the best times. And that's something that I keep reminding some people that I talk to or work with, that even though you might feel like you're struggling right now and it feels miserable, years down the line, you will see that these were the best times. So treat them that way. Actually enjoy having those hard times where you have to stretch yourself. You think about giving up every single day because you don't know if it's gonna work out. You don't know. Technically, you don't really have any proof that it's gonna work out, but you have this faith in yourself and you keep going, and that's how you make sure it happens. But it's something that was really interesting perspective to hear, that literally everybody that I have heard mention something like that. They're like, those are the best times. And I'm thinking, what is best about that? But then when I heard him explain that this is where you're stretched the most and you learn most about yourself, you can start to see how powerful that actually can be, that you actually have to go through that period of time.
Yeah. In this book that I'm telling you, the success principles, there's it's divided into different scenarios for us. And they tell so many stories about different people, and you are like, oh, well, yeah, but I know her. It's like, and she got to a point in which maybe she quit her job and started to work till midnight, and that's the way it is. I'm not pretending that it was easy.
Yeah.
I had to start to use Canva, Photoshop, like scheduling posts. That you don't get that in law school, because it's a different world, and you have to stay up and work on the things and over the weekend. And yes, for me, that was my story. I'm not pretending, oh yeah, you'll become a millionaire and just working 2 hours, 2 days in the week, and that is it. No, this is my full-time job and I love it. Honestly and genuinely, I love it. And you know what? Back in the beginning, I used to post, I think it was on a daily basis, and I used to schedule the whole week. And in time, I got better. And now I post on a monthly basis. I get 1 month ahead, but time got me there. Maybe I did have the articles written. Maybe I did have the pictures. But for me, it's like, why would I? You know what? It's so much easier for me just to sit down one day and do everything that I need to do for Instagram or Facebook and just have it and be done with it for like a whole month. And when I have only one thing to show, then I post for the next month. And it's so much easier. It's never easy, and we need to learn things, and it's a process. And we do get better, but some things might not be our things. I will never do my own website. I don't even want to try. I almost died just by watching another person doing it. So sometimes we do need to outsource certain things. We need to be smart on which ones we do. So I get that a lot from potential clients. Like, I just put up a few things and I do have a contract. Okay, I will never push you into hiring me, but are you a lawyer? Do you have a legal background? Do you know the person who did that, who put up those contracts together? Like website protection, you need terms and conditions. You will need a privacy policy. You will need a disclaimer maybe. How do you really know if the person who drafted that is actually qualified to do it? Sometimes not having a document at all is less harmful than having the wrong document. I can't tell you the amount of times that whenever I talk to someone, I ask for their website just to get a glance at what they are doing. So to know where my advice would be, like if they are book writers, they will need copyrights. Maybe you don't. So my advice is always customized. And whenever they have terms and conditions and the legal documents, I don't say, okay, they have them, that's it. I go through them and I read them. And it has happened to me to say, so when we talked, you said you were, I don't know, in Chicago. Yes, I am. So at this point, were you ever in, I don't know, this is true story, in Miami? No. Is your business filed in Miami somehow? No. So why do your legal documents say you're in Miami and they have this specific name? Oh, I don't know, I just copy pasted from someone else. First of all, that's copyright infringement. First of all, that's a crime. First of all. But second, do you really think you're going to get away from a lawsuit by having someone else's documents? So why do we need the legal documents? We did them because it's the way we show people how our business works. If you have, if you're like Amazon and you ship stuff, it's not the same to say that if let's say your business is from 9 to 6 and you do overnight delivery. Okay, that's good for me. But let's say you're Pacific time and this company is in Europe. Pacific time is way behind Europe time. So we need to be specific. We just need to let them, like the holidays we won't be working, what actual time zone we are talking, if they get international shipping, or if they have to pay for that, if there's no way to get international shipping, if they get free shipping at, I don't know, $50 or whatever. We need to have those documents. In my case, I am a lawyer, but my website, it's not legal advice. This is just basic information. So none of that should be considered as legal advice because unless you hire me. Like, unless you hire me, I am not your lawyer or your coach or your doctor. So that's why it's important to have everything in alignment. And sometimes it's funny that people, when they are starting a business, they want a business coach, they want a VA, they want someone in the branding industry, and maybe an accountant, but they never consider the lawyer. Never consider the lawyer. Maybe they do file for a type of corporation to have those documents, but it's not the same to have a business name than a trademark name. If you have a business name, good for you. That only means you have a corporation, or even if you're a solopreneur, I don't care. That only means you have a business name. Business name goes into one office. Trademark name, it's still available for anyone else to file that. So sometimes people don't know, and it's okay that they don't know, but that's when they should consider talking to someone. So that's one of the things that definitely should be outsourced. Like, you are paying a web designer to do your website. And I even got that. Oh no, my web designer just put the documents. Is he a lawyer? how does a web designer who does an amazing job at doing a website, how does he or she know the legal documents that we should put and the specifics on the business name, on each one's business?
Do you know why is it that, let's say when somebody starts a business, they focus on the things that you mentioned and not as much on legal or getting a lawyer?
I think it's first lack of knowledge, and second, misled somehow. They are misled somehow, because if you talk to a friend, maybe you base your experience in whatever he or she has done in the past and from what we see on social media. So if whoever we're following or seeing in a group says, I need a business coach, everyone needs a business coach. They need to have a life coach to get rid of drama. Oh, we all want a life coach. An accountant. No, I don't need an accountant because I get the free invoice through this app and it's okay. I'm just starting. I don't need an accountant. Are you sure? Are you really sure?
I think one thing might be that with those things that you described, those are the things that in the moment you feel like you need them. But with the lawyer, it's in a way looking in the future that you protect your future. So I think that's where it might not feel as important in the moment, because you haven't been in a situation where you start to see, oh, I need this. Because once they need, I'm pretty sure they come running to you. Oh my gosh, I need help with this or that. Like I'm in this trouble. But I think that might be the case, because accounting, oh my gosh, I don't know how to handle this anymore. Find somebody.
Yes.
Life coach, I don't know how to deal with stress, overwhelm, whatever. Find somebody. But with lawyers, it's something that I feel like it's. I'm just trying to think about this.
I put it that way. Yeah, I think it's like sometimes people think I'm just starting, so I don't, let's see where we are going first, and then I can talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be late. And it's not me trying to push you my services.
Oh yeah.
I respect that if you don't want to work with me, but work with someone. Once I had this answer, no, because I am an energy healer and I am not getting involved with anyone who's a problem, so I don't need a lawyer. Okay, good luck. I will respect that. But honestly, if we all had good, like if there were only good people in the world, I would be out of job. Like my job wouldn't even exist. There would be nothing to protect.
There wouldn't even be any contracts because everything would be on a handshake deal or basis, you know?
So if that was the story, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't do this for a living, or even the accountant or anyone. Like I will respect your opinion, but good luck with that. But I will not try to push it on the person. I will respect that and let her go. She's not my client. Definitely not my client. Someone who thinks that, she's not my client. I even got once, oh, I'm not going to pay for that. And it was someone who had a possible patent. She didn't get the actual advice. And then she saw someone else selling a very similar product on, I think it was a platform. And I was like, well, yeah, we should go this way and that way. And how much would that be? So I told her, I can't remember the amount. And she was like, I am paying for that. Okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's your baby, not mine. It's your creation in risk, not mine. It's your work drained out the tunnel, not mine. So I'm good with that.
So even like when it comes to people getting educated about that, do you know what could help people to get more educated on the importance of it?
First, do like a research, talk to someone, try to get I always offer complimentary calls because you cannot know if I am your ideal lawyer until we've spoken and you've known. But do an actual research. Don't just stick with whatever anyone says on any social media on what you know. Because if I stop with what I know, I probably wouldn't even have an Instagram account, because why would a lawyer have an Instagram account? It's like unprofessional to have an Instagram account, or get my clients on Facebook. It's unprofessional to get my clients on Facebook. It's my daily life. So sometimes we definitely need to think outside the box. And you know what? In my case, in the very beginning, I tried to do things to have my firm in the exact same way that I knew how to, like in what I felt comfortable with, what I knew coming from corporate. And you know what? I had to change that. I had to speak to the person or to the people, to my crowd, in their own language. And when any person told me that, I would be like, but it's not proper. Like, it's not the actual language that I should be using. Like, I should be talking to you and telling that you have to register your trademark. And maybe you will hear me so many times just only talking about your brand or your logo. Yeah, those two mean the trademark as well. But an intellectual property attorney wouldn't say a brand, because for brands, we have a branding specialist, but I need to talk to my audience. So maybe trademark is not the best way of putting things. I would say trademark registration, which is the more proper one, but I need to talk to and to download my language a little bit, and not meaning this is not being disrespectful at all.
You just talk in language that people understand.
Exactly. I talk lawyer. That's what I know. I talk lawyer. So I had to be like level it down a bit, because sometimes people were like, but wait, what? And it's like sometimes I get that I need to patent my trademark, or I need to copyright my trademark. You just need to have your trademark. You patent your patent, and you copyright your copyright, and we trademark your trademark. That's it. But there's like a mess with the names, and you can find that everywhere. And sometimes you don't know, and it's okay that you don't know. But that's why I am really passionate at explaining things. And we see it on social media. I know my competition, if you want, and I don't see any of them explaining the way that I do and taking the time that I do. They are just, go to my website and buy this bundle. I will never do that to you, ever. You're hiring a lawyer, and because you are hiring a lawyer, the least you have to expect is the respect from this lawyer to actually make your money worth. Like, you are paying me to work. You're not paying me to do the work yourself. So for me, it's a way of showing respect to the person that I have in front and taking the time for them. So if your lawyer is not willing to take time for you, who would? That's not your lawyer. Maybe, but sometimes you need the 5-minute answer. You don't want the long answer. I will not give you the short answer, ever. I will not tell you, oh yeah, I will give you the deal of the contract in 5 minutes, because it takes me longer to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's why we're having this conversation. But so do you have any advice on, let's say, somebody looking for a lawyer? What are the things to look for? You kind of touched on some, even the fact that they actually can find time for you, or they don't really rush with the service, in a sense that, oh, here's like in 5 minutes I give you this or that. Because then it's not personalized. So in a way, personalized approach or finding time for you. Is there something else that people should look for in their lawyer, or when they look for a lawyer?
Find someone who cares, but I think not only for the lawyer. If you're working with someone, you need that someone to care for you in a way. And yes, we are all looking for money, and yes, we are all looking for clients, but we know when the person we have in front cares or ghosts us. So I don't ghost people. For me, it's, if I send you a message, why wouldn't you reply? Like, why are you pretending to be that busy that you just see it and leave it? So find people, not only the lawyer, make your team. And your team might not be your employee. Maybe it's an independent. I am an independent contractor for my people. I just go there, do the job, and be done. But I never done. I have clients who have hired me to do every single piece of work that I do. And I have clients who only hire me to do one contract. And that was it. You know what? They might have gotten not the right legal protection, but they didn't want it with me. And it's okay. But you know what? This time I am redoing the website and I asked for a few testimonials, and some of them who never got me, like we've never been in touch anymore, and they got me a video for myself. So that's the relationship that I build. Like, you only hire me to do one thing, but you know you can count on me for everything. You know what? I even had people telling me, hey, do you know anything about taxes? No, I will not even pretend to know anything. But let's see if I can hook you up with someone who actually can. I will not do it. And I'm making you a favor. Like, it's at your best interest that I don't do anything like that. But I will try to help you if I can, of course. But I have people, I become like kind of the to-go person for my people. And I love that. I genuinely love that. And maybe I don't have the answer, but at least I listen to them. And not everyone is trying, it's willing to actually listen to us.
Oh, yeah, because everybody's so busy. But like, I think one thing that you really touched on, that I have seen a lot, is that a lot of times when choosing a service or somebody who provides some sort of service, a lot of times we buy the person, not only the service. Exactly. So when you make that decision who to work with, look not only at the service they offer, but also at the person who they are. And that's something that I have seen with some people that I have worked with, that they hire me for the person I am, because now they associate that, like, who I am with good service. And I'm sure it's the same with you, because like even what you said about somebody asking you for taxes, I'm so similar with that in that way, that if somebody asks me help with something that I'm not, I don't want to say like certified, because you don't always have to be certified to help with certain things, but I don't feel like I'm at the position where I can help you at the level that I would want to initially. But I might know somebody who can help you. So that way I can add value, not directly through me, but I might know somebody who, even like, let's say they need help with contract. Maria, here you go. You know? And that's where I won't pretend that I know something that I don't. And I think that's, again, even when it comes to coaching, you see so many people, even like so many people that I talk to, that I ask them, like, let's say through networking, who do you help? What do you help with? Oh, like I can help with like anything. And I'm like, yeah, you probably won't be able to help as well as you would if you help with, let's say, one specific thing. Because now, how do you measure how much you have helped person when you help them with everything and they really, really, really slowly move towards or get better in that one thing? And even like, I think there was one person who I was talking to, I don't remember who it was, but the situation was that she's helping with one thing, but she said, oh, I also can help with like weight loss. And I said to her, don't do that, because first, if you try to do two things, you might give them worse service than somebody who does only that, but also you probably don't have expertise in that second thing. So instead of trying to overcomplicate it for yourself, because now you have to do two things, two services, you have to think about, you have to double, like instead of focusing all your time on one thing, you now have to divide it in two things. So you won't really be great at either, because now you have to divide that time. Just focus on this one thing, or like one area or industry, whatever. And find somebody who's expert in that. And if somebody comes to you with that, or they ask about that, send them to that person. Because, and it also took me a while to learn that you can't help everybody with everything. just
Exactly.
find something that you can help the best with, help with that, and then find people who are really good at helping with something else that you might not be as good at, and help and send people to them. Like, you don't have to help everybody with everything, and you actually help those people more by sending them to the right people, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And that's also how we build trust. Like, if I can help you, I will tell you yes. If it's something that I'm not quite sure, let's say you tell me, I don't know, I'm having an issue with real estate. I don't know, something very odd for me. I would say, if I say, yes, I can definitely have a look at your contract, I probably won't hear back from you. Because the opinion that I can provide on real estate contract will be, not might be, will be completely different from a real estate attorney. Why? Because that would be their opinion on a trademark matter. I might know a specific things, but there will be things that I am not qualified, or I'm not updated on them. And it's okay that I'm not updated. It's not my area of expertise. I must be updated with my thing. But that's funny too, because most of my work involves trademark copyrights, contracts, and website protection. And you started your podcast only asking me, or mostly asking me, about the patents and the creations and the inventions. And that's why I am an intellectual property attorney, because I know the answers to that. Can I do it? Yes, I can. Do I do it daily? No, I don't. Because not every single one of my clients come up with an invention. It will be me lying to your face. But every single one of them comes with either trademark or copyright, mostly trademarks and website and copyright protection. So that's how we also build our trust. And we kind of are, I think it's smart, because if I say, hey, I am a patent attorney, or can I help you with your patent, or do you have an invention? Probably I will hear crickets from people, because it's 1 in 10 or 1 in 100 who would say, yes, I have come up with something. But every single entrepreneur will need a contract. Every single person having a website will need website protection. And in that, yes, I can definitely help you no matter what your industry is. My industry happens to be women, but does it mean that I don't help men? No, it doesn't. Most of my clients are women, but that's just something that happened. But it doesn't mean that I don't help men.
Because you speak law, so it doesn't really.
Exactly. So yeah, I speak law, and trademarks don't differentiate. I mean, they don't distinguish gender. So I don't care what you are, but I can help you with that. That's for sure. And I don't mean it in the, I don't care what you are. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man, if you're a blogger, if you're like a businesswoman, if you have a product, if you have a service, if you are in Italy, if you are in Sweden, if you're in the States, if you're in Argentina, I will help you with that.
Oh, one thing that I wanted to ask you,
sure,
as we slowly close up. So in video that I was watching, as I was learning about all this, or trying to get some insights, the person speaking said that when you create a trademark, you don't really, that trademark isn't really a name, but you make it on something that you like put on products, or I don't know if that makes sense. Can you talk more on that?
Yes, of course. So that's different. That's why I mentioned a few minutes ago the products and the services.
Okay.
So if we have computers, they have different trademarks, and we know them. They are very popular. But those same trademarks also have different types of devices. So we put the trademark name, the actual name, on the computers, on the cell phones, on the mouse, the pads, the headsets, help me out there, PlayStations. So we put the name on the product, and that makes it a product trademark.
Okay.
If we put it on makeup, it's a trademark for products. The product, what is it? A pencil line, a liner, lash, mascara, lip liner, blush, whatever.
So if you, is it like that you actually put the name? So let's say Apple, if you put Apple on, then as a word instead of like a symbol.
No. Apple, the brand Apple for computers has a very distinguished design. It's an actual beaten apple, right? So whenever we see that, we associate that with Steve Jobs. It's not a different person. It's not anyone else. That's why it's a very well-known brand. That's the story. So whenever we have a brand or a trademark put into a product, that's what we see. And that's why that's where our eye goes. And that's why packaging and branding is so important as well. But that doesn't make trademark protection less important. Actually, it makes it more. So it's not the same to put it. Let me think of an example of, so we have Yves Saint Laurent. So they have makeup and they also have bags. Two trademarks, different products. Makeup goes into one class and the bags go into different one, clothing, right? So that's what we need when we put it into the product. When we put a name into a product, we need to know exactly what that product will be. So if we have food with that specific product, and we also have clothing with the name of that, those are different classes to file an application. And that's why we may be talking about 2, 3, or 4 trademarks. Okay, because the interest is different, and that's why we need to file more than one class. In the attorney's world, that means 1 or 4 trademarks. And you will say, but it's the same. Yes, it's the same, but for different things. And when you offer a service, if I am a lawyer who has a law firm, but I also do coaching, like I am your legal coach, whatever that is. It's 2 different services that I'm providing. So it will be 2 different trademarks.
Okay.
And if all of a sudden in the same website, I want to sell t-shirts with my name on, I need the clothing class. And if I want makeup, it will be a different class.
I heard something about, I don't know if how relevant this is to exactly this topic, but it is really interesting that in McDonald's, you don't see McHappy because they have, I don't know, what were the meals like? Why am I blanking? I haven't eaten in McDonald's in so long. But like you have these Mac, you have some McChicken, you have these kind of names. And I don't remember where I heard this, but that they don't have McHappy because somebody somewhere in like really small shop somewhere in the country, they have something like that. And they weren't willing to give it up.
Well, good for them. And probably they lost millions.
Probably.
So McDonald's is a trademark, and we just see the M, and that's how our brains work. Because that's what we were fed with. That's how our eyes see the branding, the packaging. So whenever you are that big, you protect everything with a trademark. So McDonald's, but we just put the Donald's out and we just leave Mac. Mac Mac whatever will be a trademark specifically for whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I didn't hear, I've never heard that story. I will dig into that though, to see in what year this other person filed this Mac Happy. And you know what? McDonald's cannot own Mac for life or everyone, because it's just MC.
Mm-hmm.
It stands for whatever we wanted. McDonald's, that will be different because we are talking about a very well-known brand worldwide. Okay, so we cannot pretend we don't know what it is. But MC, it's just an M and a C. And as long as this other person doesn't want or doesn't trick the consumers into thinking they are somehow McDonald's, good to go.
Yeah.
And that's where I did mention something about buying the trademarks during our chat. And that's where, like, if you are interested enough in this trademark, you will try to buy it. And this guy probably lost millions, because trust me,
I think the story was that he didn't want to give it up. I think that was a story, because the story was pretty much about why McDonald's doesn't have Mac Happy Meal. Because they don't have it.
No, probably it's because this guy said no. And in this specific location.
Yeah. And that is like, it's a really interesting example of how it works, or even how important that is, because now, even though it might seem like a small thing, but they just can't have Mac Happy Meal, you know?
Yeah. But they are McDonald's.
Else,
How can't they? How does it? And it's the way it goes. It's when it comes to the trademark office, they will not care who you are, and they will not just give you the rights. But you will definitely have a better position. Let's say there's one teeny tiny country in the world that McDonald's doesn't know, which would be very, very rare, but it could happen. And in this country, someone wants to be the smart one and files for the trademark. They will just jump over a poor person. Like, the condolences to this person, because they will make their life miserable and they will win. Why? We're talking about them trying to persuade clients into thinking they are the big ones, not just a law office and McDonald's happens to be my last name. That will be different. So unless I don't go with the big M and the red and the yellow, we're good. But if you try to make people think that you are the big guy, you got into trouble.
And they do come after you.
Oh, of course. And if I am that big, I do have the backs, I do have the best attorneys in the world, and I will make you sorry. And you know what? Probably you even have to pay me. And you have nothing, but you will have to pay me because you wanted to play the smart one. That's how polite I should be on the podcast. And I don't say the word that I am thinking of this moment.
Well, you can be as polite as you want to be. I don't really mind. But
no. I will be a polite
But that's
girl.
really interesting how let's say they have put themselves in a position over the years where they have that power to make those moves. Because now, like, nobody can really do whatever they want with the name McDonald's or even any kind of Mac or stuff like that. But I think that's where you can it's so interesting that when we start off, we don't really see those legal things as important, but I think the bigger you get, the more you start to see how really important they are.
Absolutely. And it is. And that's why whenever I hear, first I want to see where I'm going. Okay, I respect that. I will not try to convince you of anything, but better late than sorry. You're not protecting yourself from good people. And we all hope to have amazing clients. We all want that. But that's not really the story that I hear from people, like from my clients. And you can use the name. I mean, if it's your last name, you will be okay. It will be okay for you to use it. I'm not saying that. But we may have to get into some agreement with these other people, the bigger ones, saying, okay, I'm not interfering into your area or whatever. But the big ones, the actual big ones, sometimes they have that, like McDonald's. It's not just a food store. They have they have trademarks for everything, because they sell things, they have different things. So sometimes we are not aware of that until we dig a bit into the trademark thing. And there's so much below, anywhere you want to see it, what we see at the surface that maybe we didn't consider that. And that's, I mean, it's okay that the average person's brain works like that. But it's what made it so fascinating for me, because it's like, oh my God, let's keep digging.
Yeah. And you see those behind the scenes, and you see what are the things that happen or how certain things work. And I think that's where I can imagine how it can get fun to you, because even as I was doing I was watching some videos, learning something about this industry before our conversation, I found how interesting it is. I literally want to learn more, and even I probably will have you come back on time, because
I would love to. I would love to be here again.
Myself,
Yeah, but for me, it's an amazing world. I am so glad that I found it, or it found me.
Yeah, this is the power of movies.
Yeah,
that's why you get into it.
You can call it fate or whatever you want, but it's like, I told you, I was getting bored with what I consider to be the average stuff, because it wasn't my passion, And I read this book and it was so eye-opening for me. And I was like, but how, being a lawyer, how would I? And you know what? Finding this world, I was able to. So life leads us towards where we are supposed to be going. And sometimes we don't see it. And you're like, but I wanted the other job and I didn't get it. This didn't happen to me, but sometimes we are frustrated because we don't get exactly what we wanted. And I learned it's a process. I learned in a way to not to let it go, but to let it be, and knowing that the best will happen. So finding the intellectual property world made me be in touch or helped me be in touch with people from literally all over the world, even countries that I didn't even know existed, and helped me find my passion and it's what I do now. So it's what I needed to feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and it's interesting how even as your story involved, let's say developed, that if I was a kid and because I was watching movies as well, they didn't speak to me. Something else spoke to me. And it's so interesting how throughout the life we get these things that we feel like we are drawn towards, but at the same time we feel, I don't know, we either feel that we're forced to go a certain way or fit into society, something like that, where you kind of neglect that. But you are the one who noticed those things. Somebody else, they can just watch, let's say, example of movies. They can watch a movie, especially at 10 years old. Like, they wouldn't think about, oh, I want to be a lawyer, So that's something that spoke to you uniquely. So, and it's so interesting how, I don't really know how it works, but we all have this innate thing in us that we feel like I'm drawn to this, but not to this. And it's really good that, let's say in your case, you were able to discover that quickly. And I think most people, we kind of have this inner sense of what it is, but you didn't allow something around you to get in a way of making that decision to actually go that route or go that path, where somebody else might feel like, oh, I want to do this, but it's not really what everybody else does. There's no money there. And then, like you start to get in these like stories or like whatever you tell yourself that you end up not doing it, but you actually end up feeling miserable, or you feel like something is missing, something isn't clicking. So it's great to hear that you literally knew that when you were 10 years old. That's amazing.
Now, well, I kind of knew where I wanted to be led to, but this, if I'm being honest, this is completely different from what I could have imagined. And that's for real. And all jokes aside, yes, I decided to be a lawyer very early in life. But being a lawyer, what was I supposed to do? Like, you finish school and you're supposed to like either open your firm and say, hey, I am a lawyer and I'm hoping to get the clients. Okay. And no one's got it. But whatever. Or think outside the box. I had to think outside the box to create this. And it's not easy. And that's where, again, we go to the support of people. And that's it. And I wanted to mention something else. Sometimes we have, like, let's say your dad was a doctor and you're put into, like, someone puts into your mind or your brain that you have to be a doctor. So you go to doctor at like the medicine school and you're like, I don't like I genuinely, and how many people have we seen that they had to go to like college or university to be something and to actually become a professional, whatever that is. But when they graduated, or even if they graduated, like sometimes they drop out of school and because they realize they hate that. And it can be like, for me, law school wasn't a piece of cake. I had to study a lot. It wasn't that, oh yeah, well, it just went through the years.
Well, it's not easy.
No, I had to study. But it can be so much harder to study something that you're not sure about. So we just need to stop listening to other people's opinion on what we should be doing. Like when I started this, and I like the first few months, I told you I didn't have any clients at all. But when I started to have them, not even my mother understood what I was doing. Then she was like, but how? And they hire you? Like, not because she didn't believe in me, because she did, but it's like, why would someone in the other side of the world trust me? If you think about it, it makes sense in a way. And it's what I was feeding my brain with. And we just need to stop that. And believe that we can actually, we're not trying to make something weird. We are adjusting the world and taking advantage of technology and everything and making our lives. We are given this opportunity. Like many years ago, we wouldn't even have met. You are in your country, I'm in mine, you're in your business, what is a podcast? Like, what the hell is this? Like, we only had the radio and we only had TV and we were lucky enough we had cable. So many years ago, we weren't able to do this. So I think we all are really lucky now, and we are able to communicate with every single person we want. And it's so much easier than I'm not saying entrepreneurship it's easy. I'm not saying that because it takes work, but we have more tools. And a lot
more tools.
Definitely. And the more, and in a few years, we'll have even more tools because technology just gets better. So for me, I just found my jam. Like, I learned English at a very young age. I hated English. Like, Spanish is my first language. My mom made me study. She saw that English was the language of the future. And you know what? I am so damn lucky she did at that point. In the very beginning, you just simple present continuous, the pronouns, and you just don't, I just couldn't understand that. I just studied that. So I didn't truly like a language. In time, I just speak the language 90% of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my clients speak English. I have my Latina community, which I love them and they like me because they know that I can draft in both languages very well. That's a different story, but we speak English because they live in the States. So, but we get the Spanish, like, but Spanish is only for like my family, my friends, and like my neighbors, and that's it. For my clients, it's all English. So I am so not lucky because I didn't get lucky, but I am so proud of being able to do this because it's a language that I've been speaking like for 30 plus years, and it gives me the chance to communicate with you, with your audience, with my audience, with whenever I travel. I love being able to communicate myself and to understand and I'm not saying it's the only language in the world, but to be able to communicate.
But it is a bit more universal than other languages. Even like my language, Latvian, like English is not my first language as well. So imagine if you spoke only your language and I spoke only my language, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation properly.
And Spanish is spoken in many, like all over Latin America, but Brazil. And you had Spain, and there might be a few islands somewhere. That
Spanish is a big language.
It's a big one. And I don't speak it for work. I barely speak it for work, let's be honest. Because I barely have, like, it's very rare that I have Argentinian clients. I have them, but it's like 1 out of 10, 15.
Yeah, that's interesting how many opportunities we really have that we get so accustomed to having them that we now have something else to complain about, oh, I don't have this or that.
Oh yeah. And well, and sorry, my internet died, or we get that now. And one more thing, and if your audience is, or if your clients are as open-minded as you are, or in my case, I am, they are definitely your ideal clients as well. I even have people who reached to me and they were like, no, because you're like in a different country. Okay, I respect that. And you know what? I'd rather have that person go than then be a pain, where. Because they don't trust or they don't pay, or like, it's okay. I respect that. In the very beginning, I would just, oh my God, they say no, they say no. You just need to let them go. Because
it's something that I also learned in coaching is that you can't help people who don't want to be helped, or they don't feel that, or they might not be now in a position where they see that that's what they need. So that's fine. Like, it might take time for them to see that. They might find somebody else who they feel more comfortable with. That's fine. But I can't really control that. And I had similar phase than you describe, where I'm like, but I can help and I see their, like, you see, like in my case, I see their potential and where they can go and all this and that. But if the person don't want to be helped, you can't really help them, no matter how much you want to do that.
And that's also why I don't do but why aren't you ready to make the investment? I don't do that. Why? Because sometimes out of the blue, in 2 weeks, you just read back and you're like, hey, Maria, you know what? We've talked about it and we are good to go. It took you 2 weeks to get your ideas, or to get the money, or to get whatever. Maybe you were convinced that you wanted and you need it, but you didn't have the money. It's okay. But that's why I don't push. Because sometimes out of the blue, and this has happened, like sometimes I get okay, let's just start just from a phone call, and that's fine. And sometimes it doesn't. It would be, I would be lying if I told you that I close every single time, like every single call that I have. It's a lie.
Because like we work with humans. We don't like work with robots. Everybody, and it's something that I tell people is that even people that don't want to work with me, it can be as simple as somebody just don't like my face. or the way I talk or my accent.
Or
Sometimes it's
yeah,
sometimes it's that
your
simple.
country.
Yeah, it's
and you're blonde and I am brunette.
Yeah, and it's something that I feel that so many times many people maybe tend to take those things personally, but I'm like, that's fine. I understand that I might not be the right fit. It doesn't mean that I can't give good service, but I can't really give that good service if the person doesn't feel comfortable with me. I just can't.
Absolutely.
So I can just sign up to somebody else. But that's something that I feel many people struggle to accept, that you're not for everybody, and you won't be closing everybody. And that's fine. It doesn't mean that now you give up on some potential leads or something like that. It doesn't mean that, but they might not be ready. They might need some time to think. They might just need different kind of service first, or sometimes they just have to go through the experience when they're like, okay, I need this. I really need this. Sadly, but sometimes you have to go that route. But each person has to go different path to get to that decision. Whether they make it or not, that's up to them. But yeah, so is there anything that you would want to leave the listeners with before we close off?
I want to offer every single person who has any more questions that we have discussed here the chance to talk to me. So if they can and they want, I am open for that, to have a look at their own websites and give them specific advice on their needs.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like me, talk to a lawyer to find out what you need, how you need it, and take the steps towards. You don't need to have every single piece of work done in a minute. It's okay. But maybe if budget is an issue, take steps. Maybe 1 month you do one thing and the other month you continue, and so on. It's the way. We never do everything all together. And don't feel overwhelmed. If you are just starting, take the support you need. And if you don't have the support from like your close people or your family, find friends or find a Facebook community who will have your back. I've even read about that. Like, my husband doesn't support me. Oh gosh, I don't see a good ending in that. Create a team. We can create, I recently read a book about this, and she was so right. Create an empire. Find someone and create an empire, but we cannot create an empire on our own. She's Elena Cardone. Find someone, like she talks about a partner, but we don't all need a partner, but create an empire. Make your ideal team, your dream team, and let's just push all together to the same size. And then you will have your empire.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for coming. I feel like this conversation was amazing.
It was truly a pleasure. And I think we not only we discussed about IP, so it was really fun as well.
Yeah.
It was like a personal journey, and I like that. Thank you so much for having me.